As I was thinking about this day, and I know that New Year's Day as such is not a part of the liturgical year, not a part of the Christian year. It's a secular holiday. But nonetheless, it really seemed fitting, especially since we have the true privilege to come together in a union service, to hear the story of Joshua. Now remember, Joshua was the one that took over after Moses. Moses did some bad stuff, and God said, okay, go to the top of the mountain, look down, you see all that beautiful land, milk and honey, everything that's there? And Moses said, yeah, this is great. And God said, you ain't going. Joshua's going instead of you. Joshua leads them, they go across, they cross the Jordan, fight all the people, win all the battles, Battle of Jericho, we all know this stuff. Now the time's coming for Joshua's leadership to come to an end. And he did what I think was unbelievably fitting and a really good model for us. He recited to the people all that God had done for them. And he just laid it all out. He said, remember Abraham, the promises, the patriarch. Remember the time in Egypt. How'd you get out? You didn't do it. God did it. Wandering in the wilderness. How'd you finally get to where you were supposed to be? You didn't do it. Compasses weren't invented yet. God got you there. And everything, he just laid it out for him. This is the one that made it all possible. And yet, I look around, and all I see are a bunch of people arguing and bickering and going off in different directions. And he wasn't happy about it. Shouldn't have been happy about it. And then he gave us one of the most famous lines in all of Scripture. But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. Now, we're new to St. Johnsbury. Matter of fact, I've just learned to say bury instead of bury. So I'm getting there. And for our dinner, we served beef stew, pizza, hot dogs, and chowder. See, a few weeks ago I would have said chowder, but now I know how it's supposed to be. So I'm learning my way here. So as it was coming time for Christmas, and I was walking around looking for some special things to give to my wife, went into the bookstore, and I found this little book about the history of St. Johnsbury. Great book. Even if you've lived here, it'd probably be a good idea to read it, because my guess is you forgot a lot of it. We lived in St. Louis for 15 years. We were up in the arch more than people that were 90 years old that had grown up in St. Louis. Because when you're new, you see things and you're excited by them, and everybody else is just kind of, oh yeah, that's always been there. Now, as I was going through the search process, and was first contacted by the search committee of South Church, one of the things I did by way of due diligence was to look up St. Johnsbury, because that's what you were back then, St. Johnsbury. And I got on the website, and I went to the UCC site. And I looked it up, and I said, oh, okay, there's South Church. Oh, wait a minute, there's a North Church. Now, if I'm correct in my assumption, this isn't a big deal. We're not talking St. Louis. We're not talking Cleveland, Ohio. These are places I've grown up in and familiar with. This is St. Johnsbury, South Church and North Church. And I'm looking and I'm thinking, maybe this isn't the best place to go. It's like Walgreens, they're on every corner. And there's only so many people to go to churches. And then I thought, well, no, that's not such a bad thing. Because as I looked and did more due diligence, I looked at North Church. Jay Sprout, 30 years. Okay, he's old. He's going to leave soon. I can swoop in and take him over. He won't know. He's old. So I come for the visit. Jay's not smiling, by the way. So I come for the visit. We drive around. We see things. It's like, oh, okay. And then after a whole lot of prayer and thoughtful consideration, discernment, my wife and I decided to take the call. Then we started doing some real in-depth. I started doing some real in-depth exploration of the history of the relationship between South Church and North Church. You know, and discovering that we were all one church at one time. But there were more people than could fit in the church. Can you imagine that today? More people than could fit in the church. We don't have that problem today, and we brought two churches together. Granted, it's New Year's Day, but still, we could do it on a regular basis and would probably still have plenty of room here in South Church. Because you're all coming here. That's part of my plan when Jay retires. Well, what happened then? I mean, if you've got a thriving, growing church, oh my goodness, you celebrate. But no, you folks, and now I can say you folks, because you Vermonters, because I was in Ohio when all this happened. Actually, I wasn't even born. You had a lottery, and 30% of the winners got to go down the street to start a new church. They were the lucky ones. So they came down. No problem. From my understanding of the history, we still had two churches that were just bursting at the seams. Part of our history. Yet, from what I can glean, there was still always a relationship that was there. There was never a sense of competition. There was never a sense of us and them. It was still we. And the churches did many, many things together. Part of our story. We served as one congregation in two places. We served the Lord because that's what it was all about. And we knew that's what it was all about. Times begin to change. The world begins to change. Now, all of a sudden, we don't have two churches bursting at the seams. We have two churches that, like the vast majority of mainline Protestant churches, are really struggling. And we're told, forget the past. You read all the books by those that are in the know about church growth, new church start, the church in the 21st century. And they all say, almost unanimously, forget the past, forget what was there. It's never going to happen again. Learn to deal with where you're at. See, the same thing was happening with Joshua. The world was changing. Now, all of a sudden, the people that had rallied around one leader, around one God during their time in the wilderness, now, all of a sudden, they were becoming settled. They were intermarrying. They were bringing in different faiths into their families and into their communities. The people of God were beginning to just kind of go their own way. And my guess is there were people that were telling Joshua, I just read this new scroll by the Alban Institute. And they say that things are changing now. And that we've got to accept the Canaanite religions. And the Hittite religions. And the Jebusite religion. You want to tell them all the religions again? Okay, no, all right. So let's just go with the flow. But Joshua, being the true man of God that he was, stood up before the people and recited to them their history. A history that for many was old stuff. That quite frankly, it happened so long ago that yeah, they were there, yeah, they lived it, but you just kind of forget it. For many, it would have been brand new, eye-opening, enlightening that God had done all this stuff. Oh my gosh, why didn't you tell me this before? And then he challenged them. And he said, who's going to be your God? And again, his response, you choose who you want. But as for me and mine, we will serve the Lord. Right now, every book, every story, every show you watch about the church is telling us that we are a dying institution, that we are losing our relevance in the world today. One of the nice things about the Christmas season, Advent, Christmas, and right around Lent and Easter is places like CNN and the History Channel, and they discover Jesus. And you can't turn on the TV without seeing a show about Jesus or the church. And I watched a few of them this past season. And do you know some of the stuff we went through? When I say we, I mean Christians. What we're going through in our society today ain't nothing. When's the last time one of you worried about somebody breaking in your door and seeing a Bible pulling you out and burning you at the stake? When's the last time any of you felt like you had to be careful not to wear a cross or something that designated you as a Christian because you knew if you did there was a good chance that they would take you to Foxborough Stadium and feed you to the lions? When's the last time you had to wake up and sneak to church? We don't have to worry about that. Big scheme of things, we got it made.